Hello, my name's David. I was a developer on GTA 5, and I thought today we'd revisit GTA 5 enhanced version and just have a little chat about working in the games industry and general things around that day-to-day stuff about working in a studio, and we'll see where that takes us, I suppose. Yeah, and relaxed little chat about working in industry. I'll tell you some stories, and yeah, we'll see how we get on, shall we? So here we are, flying high above this wonderful world, and I would like to just have a little ramble through the canyon while we're having this interesting little chat. So here we are. Trevor's got his little copter, and just gonna get as high as I can. Ooh. Above the clouds, far above the world. And then we'll see. We'll just jump out. If I can remember how to activate the old parachute. Lovely. And I'm going for that little track down on the south side of the Super Duper River here. So let's do it. Trev's rather well dressed for this, but it's fine. He likes to be snappily dressed while he's skydiving, doesn't he? So let's go. There's a little path. And deploy. Lovely. And we'll have a rather relaxed come down. So, yeah. There we go. We'll touch down here. And see if I can't just land us. What's this? We're wanted. A 1-star level. Why are we wanted? Huh. Okay. Fair enough. Ooh. This looks like a slightly painful landing, that, didn't it? But here we are. Right. Well, I do hope the police are not going to hassle us over much here. I'm quite innocently parachuting down. Maybe it's illegal. So, yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining me again for another ramble and natter. And my voice still a little bit hoarse, so I hope that doesn't become annoying to any of us, myself included. But yeah, as I said, my name's David. I've worked in the games industry for about 17 years. I started off at Traveller's Tales, then I went to Bizarre Creations, and I spent 12 years as an environment artist at Rockstar Games. Being very lucky in getting to work on GTA 5, RDR2, and GTA 6 before I left in 2023. Oh, that's very nice, isn't it? Lovely flowers. How colourful. So, yeah, thank you for all the comments and stuff. It's lovely to, sort of engage with you all. I like I like the chatter and back and forth, and I like the questions as well. And it did occur to me that it'd be interesting to sort of do a video about working in the games industry. Being sort of fairly non-specific. I'm not going to tell you exactly what goes on at Rockstar Games. I'm not going to tell you, you know, any detail about it, but I'm hoping to sort of give you a broad overview of working in the industry. And sort of on the assumption that a lot of people are quite interested. And I know, a lot of you are into the modding, and other people who are perhaps have worked in the industry, maybe even, or in software in general. And a lot of you know the kind of, the gist of it, don't you? There's a lot of assumed knowledge perhaps in my head when I'm thinking about you, dear audience. And yeah, you modders out there stuff, you know a lot of stuff. You know a lot of what's going on. But I suspect that you're in the vast minority. I think there's an awful lot of people who love playing games, particularly GTA and RDR and lots of other games, and you haven't got the faintest idea of the day-to-day of working in a studio, and that's not your fault, because the games industry is relatively secretive, isn't it? You don't really get many windows into the games industry. And, regardless of company or studio. So I think that I'm on safe grounds in having a little chatter about it all. I'm not going to be giving away any secrets or anything. What I am going to be doing is trying to say less you knows again. For all you having a shot every time you detect a or an in it, then hopefully you can still be standing at the end of this one. We'll see, won't we? So I'm trying my best, but we'll see how we go. So, the wall. I remember this wall. I remember the person doing this wall. Wasn't me, by the way. But yeah, it takes me back, and it's 13 years, isn't it? But anyway, yeah, enough waffle, enough waffle. Let's actually get on to some of the meat of it. I started at Traveller's Tales, and I started as a gameplay programmer. It's kind of a bit weird, isn't it? How I ended up doing art, isn't it? I'm not really sure what happened there. I did a degree in games programming, basically, although it's called computer games technology. And some reason I chose to do a programming degree, and it all worked out very well. I did well. I got a first class degree with honours, and despite being quite an unconfident programmer, I was not a natural at programming. I got through that with sheer hard work and dedication. Whoa there, Trevor, steady on. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I just put my all into it, and I got through it. And then I got a job as a gameplay programmer at Traveller's Tales. And yeah, it was interesting that, because I and two other guys started just at the tail end of Traveller's Tales finishing, what was it? Lego Star Wars Saga, I think it was called. Yeah, and they were all mad busy at the time. So I started, and for the first 3 weeks there, didn't have a desk. So the three of us were kind of shuffled off at the edge of the office with some computers. And there was no one free to kind of onboard us, as it were, to show us the ropes and stuff. They were just all mad busy, too busy to attend to the new people. And so we, because they were like going on to Lego Indiana Jones and Lego Batman straight after Star Wars, they said, just, soak up the reference and stuff for these two IPs. And so we spent 3 weeks watching all the Indiana Jones films and watching all the original Batman TV series from like the 60s, and repeatedly watching them for, the next 3 weeks, and not did anything. So it was kind of a weird start there. And so we well and truly, imbibed the reference material. And then when it was over, eventually, we got some seats in amongst the team, and then we got shown the ropes. And, when you start at a new company, usually someone's there, they take you under their wing, and it's generally a fairly relaxed introduction to, in my case, the code base. So I was just kind of left to my own devices to sort of troll through the code. And that was just, reams and reams of code pertaining to Lego games, all the classes and all, if you know anything about programming, all of the stuff to do with everything and anything. And in my case, I was going to be working on Indy's dig. He would dig with his shovel, and he would fix with his spanner. And I was kind of just working through all that sort of stuff. And so I would be digging through and experimenting and just playing around, and really I was just thinking, like, what the hell am I doing? And trial and error, sort of figuring out what goes where kind of thing, and adapting, testing out my own little functions and stuff like that. And, over the months, I gradually sort of got accustomed to it, although I never really felt confident with it. And But that was the day to day of it, really. There wasn't any pressure to perform or anything like that. They were really relaxed and it was fine. And but as we know, I ended up doing art, so I ended up really realizing that I wasn't that comfortable being a programmer. I wasn't confident, and I did see what the artists were doing, and I wanted to do that. So I retrained in the end, and I ended up spending about a year, took a year out and retrained. And how I got my first art job was that I was just looking around, and I think actually my girlfriend, now my wife, she found a job going, and we were living in Liverpool, and it was for Bizarre Creations. They were advertising, they wanted some contract workers. So they very helpfully had a sort of application package that you could download and you could make a city block. Pretty much one of the city blocks from PGR, I think it was, something like that. And it was like, just make this, send it off to us, and we'll have a look and, see where it goes from there. And so I did that, and I got an interview, and then I got a job on a contract basis, which eventually turned into a permanent role. But to jump forward there, my first day, it was not so much watching Batman and Lego Star Wars, but it was cool. I had a desk, I had a computer, I was sat with the art team, and it was all kind of, sitting where I would stay for the bulk of my time at Bazaar, getting to know the artists there, and they were all very welcoming. Usually people in games companies, when you start, they're always very welcoming. In my experience, they've always been like that. I've never had any problems starting in new places. It's a really cool thing. It's lovely that. And they were there to, they were always saying like, need any help? Just ask us and we'll show you any questions, anything like that. So sometimes you might have one person that is your mentor. In my experience, most of the time it was anyone and everyone from your immediate team who was always there to help. And I started off at Bazaar doing Windows, actually. I was putting in specular maps on Windows for the trackside houses. So thinking back, it's a little bit boring in some ways, but I was in Photoshop, and wherever there was windows, I would be creating block color. I seem to recall, I think it was magenta actually. Putting that for the shine on windows and things. And I went through loads of stuff doing that. And I was happy with that. I was all in on that, because for me, I was like finally doing at least some kind of art, working in a games company. Everyone was really nice and cool. It was a really relaxed atmosphere, and I was happy, and I just threw myself into that, and I think that got noticed. That I was keen and happy to do and happy to help, and so that turned into a permanent role. And then after that, I started doing more stuff like trackside terrain, things like that. So they usually sort of put you onto something that is fairly small, bite-sized, something that you can kind of just learn stuff on. Maybe something that's not massively important at first, but they'll just put you on something to see how you go. And I did that, and then it sort of just snowballs from there. And you get bigger jobs to do, you get more responsibility, and eventually, if you've shown the right aptitude for whatever you're doing, then you can start actually contributing ideas and putting your input in and starting to shape the way things are going, which is what I found myself doing, especially around the Hollywood Hills on Blair. I did a lot of the roadside terrain and hills, and I was really able to be inventive and creative and really get stuck in on it. And back then we were doing a lot of what I would call modeling to texture. So we had a lot of texture reference, and I would be making shapes based on that texture. So I'd kind of have an embankment. Have we got something similar here? Let's just go over here up to the roadside. This is a good example here. So we might have a texture of this, and the roadside rock would be just a very, very basic, a gridded plane, basically, going up at an angle like this. I would model in the shapes that could be seen in the texture. So I would be embellishing things like this darker streak here and shaping it so it was maybe a recess. And especially up there, I would be basically kind of bringing out the 3D shapes I saw in the texture. And that's how we did a lot of the roadside terrain on Blur. We modeled to texture. In contrast to a lot of other places and most of what artists do nowadays, I think that you don't really do modeling to texture anymore. It's very much modeling shapes first and applying material surfaces after that that fit those shapes. So it was an interesting kind of opposite way back then. So yeah, that was what I was doing on Blur, lots of that sort of stuff. And then eventually, as we moved from Blur to the project after Blur, um, a lot of it, what I was doing, evolved into almost a little bit of concept art, but concepting out new track ideas, new layouts for themed tracks and environments and stuff. And it's like that, you know, they see if you're good at a particular thing, and you'll get more of that generally. And a lot of good team leads will see that, and then they will allow you to explore those avenues that you're showing an aptitude for and a desire to do. And even down to what tracks you would like to be involved in. My lead was really good. He was always really keen that everybody be working on something that they were infused with. And a good team lead will do that. They'll see what each team member likes doing, and they will endeavor to put people on stuff that they will like, because you'll get the best out of people if they're doing stuff that they're really interested in. So, you know, there's a lot of that in games because there's a lot of good team leads and a lot of people who know how to get the best out of people. But that reminds me, actually, people were asking about different types of environment art, which is a good question, isn't it? And yeah, there's quite a few different types, isn't there? There's props or asset modeling, props being any object, perhaps, for instance, in an interior, you know, all your furniture, anything that you might find in a house, discrete objects, often hard surface modeling, but anything, like in a, say, in an interior in GTA 5, or, you know, whatever, it might be a record shop and there's vinyl records, or there's the objects that you would see in that environment, anything like that. And props artists will be making stuff like that to populate the game world with. Or you might be doing vehicles, vehicle artists. A lot of places will have dedicated vehicle artists, depending on the sort of game. I mean, a racing game particularly. But a lot of companies still have a vehicle department, and then those people will be just making cars and vehicles, maybe airplanes, helicopters, any vehicle, and they will do that. And that will be people who are really into cars, maybe, you know. Um, and again, people that show an aptitude or desire to do that will usually end up doing that. And in my case, landscape. That was my thing. I really enjoyed doing natural landscapes, making cliffs and mountains and rivers and all sorts of stuff like that, you know. And water is a subset of naturalistic landscapes, but then water is a whole study in its own right. So on RDR2, great deal of effort went into water stuff, and it was noticed that I liked doing that sort of stuff, and so team leads noticed that and let people work on the areas that they're going to be infused with. That's the thing with the games industry, is that most team leads are trying to get their team onto jobs that they will all like, because that way the work goes much easier and you'll get a better quality. So it's nice, isn't it? I think that might be quite rare for an industry to do that. A lot of industries are quite dictatorial, and you'll just get given a project or a job like, yeah, this is your one now. And you might be thinking, oh, that's rubbish, isn't it? Well, I've got to get on with it and do it. But the games industry, often everyone wants everyone else to be doing something that they like doing, which is cool. So what have we gone through? Props, we've gone through vehicles, landscape, and another subset of landscape, foliage, the veg people, trees, any kind of foliage. You might even have a department of veg, or it might be more lumped into general terrain. And it really does depend on the size of the company as well. You might have one art team on a small game that does all of that, and where I work now, I mean, I'm the only artist, so I am officially 3D environment artist, but I'm basically art director. I'm basically lighting. I'm basically dressing, set dressing, environment art, water, landscape, props, vehicles, architecture. So I did a whole lot. Architecture, that's what I missed, isn't it? That's another huge part of environment art, the architecture, of course. Houses, any objects, any architecture. And that is another huge thing which can get very, very complex. And of course, you imagine something like GTA, then there's an awful lot of architecture, isn't there? And that's roughly the division of kind of departments in environment art. But again, it varies vastly from company to company. A Rockstar will have a different approach to Ubisoft, to Playground Games, for instance. Any company, any games company, they will all have their own unique approach. But if you say to anyone in the industry, I'm a props artist, then generally people will know what you mean. If you say I'm an architecture, then they'll know what you mean. It's when I say I'm an environment artist, then people feel they need to ask the question, don't they? Like, so what exactly did you do? Because environment is a encompassing term for it all. So then I'm usually following it up with, yeah, I do naturalistic landforms, things like that. So yeah, that's giving you a little bit of insight into it, of the broad sort of deal of environment art. And everywhere I've been has been broadly similar in the approach to when you're a new starter. You generally sit with your team. You might have a mentor, or it might just be everybody. You'll have a team lead, so they'll, be mainly responsible for looking after you and showing you the ropes. Rockstar was really cool with that. Again, everyone was like, any help you need, just give us a shout, pop over. And I would pop over to any and all of them. Sometimes people would be away, maybe my lead would be away, and I would just ask any of the team, and they're all great. It was a really, really friendly art team at Rockstar, and it was really good. I formed many friendships there as well. And the art team, particularly on GTA 5, was a really close knit one, and it was relatively small still, not that many people. And throughout the summer, we would head up into the Highlands and we'd go camping, and we'd go to a pub, and we would roam the hills and get ideas for stuff on the terrain as well. It was a really cool atmosphere there. And it really helps when you're good friends with the people that you work with, as we all know, doesn't it? But I've found from working in various different industries that the games industry is particularly good for that. Particularly good for, working with cool people. Generally, everyone gets on great, and it's a nice atmosphere to work in. So I would recommend it from that point of view. So I hope that gives you some inkling into the industry. I'm not sure how much use that is or not really, because every company will be different. I think it's just maybe people are somewhat interested in my experience, which is an experience that could be different from many other people's. Very much aimed at a broad overview of the games industry to people who don't really know anything about it. So it gives you a little bit of idea of the division of disciplines within a team. So I will still endeavour to answer questions and stuff, and I'll keep waffling over various different games and stuff. So yeah, thanks for joining me, and yeah, continue to take it easy. See you later. Bye.